Hey, I'm Monica. Welcome to The Art of Living Boldly. On this channel, we talk about the psychology, philosophy, and art of living boldly. Today, I wanted to talk about 5 common symptoms of being disconnected from your boldness. There are way more symptoms than just these 5, so this list is not comprehensive. These are just 5 common ways that a lack of boldness, or as I like to say, being disconnected from your boldness, can show up in your life. Number 1 is consuming, not creating. Or another way to put it is being caught in a learning loop. This one is super common with the clients that I work with because most of us, like I'm including myself in this, we love self-improvement. We love personal growth. We love reading. We love listening to podcasts. We love even finding inspiration on social media. Anything that we feel like can help us grow in some way or live our best life. We love that shit. We eat it up. Like that is our jam. And I'm not saying that, personal growth is bad in any way, but the reason this is on a list as a symptom of being disconnected from your boldness is because sometimes we get stuck in this pattern of just consuming, and the part that's bad about it isn't necessarily the consuming, it's that we're not creating. And that's why it's a symptom of being disconnected from our boldness. Because to me, it's almost an indication that we're holding our creativity at bay. We're so focused on learning and gathering information and, like I said, trying to improve ourselves in some way that we're actually neglecting to express ourselves, which is essential when it comes to boldness. When it comes to living boldly, expression is essential. When we get stuck in this learning loop of just consuming and not creating, we can start to feel heavy, almost as if we're consuming something physical and we're just adding more and more to our body, to our mind, to our spirit. And it almost can start to weigh us down after a while. And we can almost feel paralyzed by all this information, all this stuff we're learning, all the consuming we're doing. And when it comes to living connected to your boldness, living boldly, we can't live boldly if we're not also creating, if we're not expressing ourselves in the world, if we're not contributing our gifts, our perspective, our genius. So it's actually a sneaky trap. It's easy to fall into this trap, this learning loop of overconsumption and undercreation. I myself look for this symptom in me when I notice I'm starting to feel that heaviness or I'm consuming way more than I'm creating. It definitely affects me. So it's something I keep my eye out for in myself. I've learned over the years that it is a sign for me that maybe I'm disconnected from my boldness because I'm not creating and I'm just consuming. There was one analogy or name for this symptom that I heard from Charlie Gilkey, who described it using the term creative constipation, which I feel like is actually a pretty apt analogy. And constipation doesn't feel good for you, so you kind of get the gist of that metaphor when it comes to even consuming information. So I just wanted to mention that because I do think that it kind of gives you a different way of thinking about it, as there's 2 parts of this process. There's the taking in and there's the letting out. Just like our breathing, we breathe in, inhale, and then we exhale and we release the breath. It's the same with our art. It can be healthy and even productive for us to have those channels of input that give us those little insights and inspiration, but we also need to equally value the output, the expression, the creative release of our ideas, of our inspiration. So the first symptom is consuming, not creating, or being caught in a learning loop. The second common symptom of being disconnected from your boldness is feeling like you're not making progress, or time anxiety. It's like when it's your birthday or the new year or the end of the month, beginning of a new month, you just have this anxiety about time passing, and whenever you think about it or you notice it, you feel a sense of regret or frustration, like you're not making the progress you wanted to make, and you look back on the year that just passed and you almost wonder if you wasted it or you didn't accomplish as much as you wanted to. You didn't really make the most of it in the way that you know you could have or you want to. So you kind of have this anxiety around time passing and feeling like you're running out of time, or even afraid that it's too late for you to pursue your dreams and your callings. I have definitely experienced my share of this kind of time anxiety or lack of progress in my life. One big milestone for me was when I turned 30 and I reflected, when you hit those certain age birthdays, you reflect on your life and wonder if you have made as much progress as you expected, or if you're where you want to be. You're looking ahead to plan the future. And I've had almost like an existential crisis looking at my life and realizing I didn't accomplish these things that I wanted to accomplish, or I'm not as far ahead as I wanted to be. But we can feel this either, on a certain date or milestone, but also just throughout our lives as we go through. So this symptom of time anxiety, to me, it's an indication of a disconnection from your boldness, because clearly there's some fulfillment you're not getting, and you're not pursuing something that your heart feels really called to, and that's why you have that sense of regret or even panic about time passing, or the anxiety about how fast time goes. The third common symptom of being disconnected from your boldness is feeling stifled, stuck, or almost trapped inside yourself. Meaning you feel like there are things that you want to express, opinions you want to share, ways that you want to show up in the world that you just aren't, or you're somehow blocking them. You feel stifled. That's the main thing about this one. Kind of similar to the first one about consuming, not creating. You feel like there are just these things in you that you just want to get out, that need to come out, and somehow they're just not. They're just staying stuck and trapped inside you. And it can really make you feel frustrated, like there's all this energy you're just holding in, and it leads to this tension, or even to show up as anger sometimes, because it's like all this like coiled energy just being compressed and not having an outlet, or not being able to just flow out freely. I really identify with this one personally, because I felt that way for many years, and it kind of compounds over time. Like the more you hold yourself back or hold things in, the more it just builds up and builds up, and you feel like you're gonna explode, or just this desperate need to just be able to be free and get things out and express yourself freely, to be uninhibited, unfiltered. It's almost this image of like a dam, and then it just eventually just bursts open. So yeah, it's a symptom of being disconnected from your boldness, to feel that sense of being stifled or trapped inside yourself, which can show up, like I said, is that feeling of like frustration or even anger sometimes. Which brings me to the fourth common symptom of being disconnected from your boldness, which is being overly critical or judgmental of other people, or even mixed in with that a little bit of feeling envious of other people. So there's being judgmental, critical, or envious of other people. These things can show up when we're disconnected from our boldness, because it's almost like an unconscious projection when we see others that are living boldly, or pursuing their path, or doing something daring, showing up in a way that we wish we had the courage to show up. Sometimes that shows up in a shadow way of us seeing them doing it, and instead of us being inspired or celebrating them, we can actually start to nitpick them and find flaws with what they're doing and pick them apart. It's almost driven by a positive thing, that it's like we want to be the ones expressing ourselves in that way, and we're not. So instead of us doing that hard work of facing our fear and our self-doubt, it's easier for us to just almost defend ourselves for not taking that action, and we turn outwards and we just judge other people and look for their shortcomings and their flaws. And it's really because we don't want ourselves to be exposed in that way, and we don't want to be judged and criticized for doing something similar in the world. Maybe we've been conditioned to be a certain way or to not be a certain way, so we're holding ourselves back, which doesn't feel good. And the only way we can kind of even access that is through this negative shadow tendency to just criticize and judge other people. We play the role of the critic because we're too afraid to be in the arena ourselves. I love this symptom because once you actually know it and understand it, it can be kind of uncomfortable to notice this tendency or this pattern in yourself. But once you are aware of it, it can actually be a magical indicator of what you want to be doing in the world, how you want to be showing up and expressing yourself. You use it as an indication of what you're actually desiring. And it's great information when you notice yourself criticizing or judging someone else, whether it's a thought leader that you follow or someone in a career that you secretly aspire to, having success or doing things a certain way, being their boldest self, and you feel this negative energy, this judgment or this envy. It's actually a clue. It gives you the awareness of maybe the direction that's right for you, a path that you're interested in pursuing. Like an alchemist, you can transform it into gold. So keep a lookout for that little inner critic, that judge that wants to nitpick other people's actions and other people's boldness. And finally, the fifth common symptom of being disconnected from your boldness, I saved the darkest for last, is probably the hardest to succinctly name or describe, but it's a feeling of lack of purpose, zest, inspiration, or direction. It's really a feeling of being lost, and it could range from feeling mildly depressed to feeling downright miserable or in despair. It can show up as a lack of vitality, a feeling of just numbness or blah. It can manifest as just a lack of fulfillment in your life. This is the symptom that I feel like is the darkest place out of the 5 on this list, and it's really a symptom of being disconnected from our boldness, that our soul is just screaming, our soul is suffering, trying to get our attention, trying to be heard by us, trying to get us to pay attention to, hey, something's really not right here, I'm really suffering here, and things are not meant to be this way. Another way I've heard it described that resonated with me when I was younger is from a movie, Revolutionary Road, when some of the characters talked about this feeling of hopeless emptiness.
Maybe we are running. Running from the hopeless emptiness of the whole life here, right?
The hopeless emptiness. Now you've said it. Plenty of people are on to the emptiness, but it takes real guts to see the hopelessness.
So it's really a low point, a low feeling, and it can lead to you feeling hopeless if it goes on long enough and you're not addressing the underlying issue of this symptom, which is being disconnected from your boldness. It's like the desperate attempt of your soul, the last resort to get your attention, get you to stop and look at what is going on and examine what you can change in your life, what's missing in your life, what you need more of, what you need less of, how you can truly thrive and be your authentic self in the world, and find work that's meaningful to you, express yourself in ways that allow you to shine and give your gifts to the world. I recently made a flyer about the art of living boldly that I posted around my city, and one of the first lines that I wrote was, "Do you feel like your soul is slowly dying?" That pretty well sums up this symptom. So those are the 5 common symptoms of being disconnected from your boldness. 5 different signs to pay attention to in yourself so that you can get back on the path of living boldly, of being connected to your boldness and pursuing your callings and dreams. It's how you can examine and notice whether you're living a life where you're just surviving, and ask yourself whether you want to live a life where you're actually truly thriving. So I invite you to leave a comment and let me know which one of these 5 resonates with you the most. Let's have a conversation about it. And stay tuned for more videos about what you can actually do, how you can connect to your boldness and start living a life that makes you feel truly alive and fulfilled, which is what the art of living boldly is all about. Catch you next time.